Hey, happy campers, it's Jen. It's STEAM week, so that means we're going to work with art and science today. We're going to do some chromatography. Can't wait to show you how it's done. And we're going to move into the studio so I can show you. But first, what is chromatography? I'll give you a tiny little bit of information before we get started. And that is that it was pretty much discovered in 1900 in Russia. For this project, you will need paper towels, copy paper, washable markers, permanent markers, a drinking straw or a dropper, glue stick, scissors, and a glass of water.
Try your best. Remember, there's no perfect in making art. Be safe. Let's respect the materials and make sure that we're using them correctly. And be kind. Let's make sure our table's covered and ask for help when you need it.
Okay, friends, let's go ahead and get started. The materials you need for this project: a pair of scissors, glass of water, glue stick. Most important parts are some washable markers, and you also want a permanent marker. A Sharpie will work just perfectly for that. You also will need a plastic straw or a water dropper and a couple paper towels. I'm also going to use a piece of copy paper. The project is a chromatography project. Now, chromatography is awesome because as much as I love color, I always wondered how, whenever you get ink wet, sometimes it blooms out into these beautiful, beautiful colors. So I'm going to tell you why that happens, which is really cool. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw some designs on your paper towel. Okay, so I'm going to just sort of follow, and I'm going to use my washable marker first. So I'm going to use just one of the copy paper sheets. I'm just going to do some spirals, following the patterns in the paper towel. And usually a dark color works best for this project because then you're going to see some real magic happen when we get the paper towel wet. What I'm finding interesting already is that you see my little marker marks? It's kind of leaking into the texture of this paper towel. And the reason that is that paper towels are made of something called cellulose. And cellulose is essentially wood pulp, okay? And cellulose is actually very, almost spongy in the sense that it has a lot of air pockets in between the fibers. So you can kind of see how my marker is kind of leaking out these tiny little threads. And that's because of the cellulose in the paper towel. So I'm going to do this with a couple different colors. And I'm going to speed up the video so you can watch what happens next. Let's do it. We're going to add some permanent marker now. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some lines in these different spots here. I think I'm going to go over some of these little circles in the middle. So you see the cellulose in that paper towel is really starting to show. So when you wipe your hands with a paper towel next time, you can say, wow, this is made of cellulose or wood pulp. And cellulose, by the way, allows trees to absorb water through its roots and go all the way up through the trunk and into the leaves. All right, so I like what I've done here, and it looks just kind of bland, right? But I've added washable markers and I've added permanent markers. And we're just going to see what happens when we get it wet. At this point, I'm going to align my paper towel on top of my copy paper. Take the straw. And I'm just going to take a little bit of water and I'm going to pull it up in through the straw. So I'm going to dip it, put my finger over the top, and collect some of that water. And you can see what happens when you add this water. Isn't that cool? And we're going to give it just a little bit of time. A little bit of time to dissolve out. Now, what do we see? I think got some interesting things happening. All right. So we're just going to let that sit for a minute. And I have that sitting on my copy paper. But you can kind of see what's happening here is the permanent marker that I added is staying put, and the washable marker is starting to come out. And this is where the science comes in. So chromatography essentially is this. Your markers are made up of dyes, okay? And the dyes have different chemicals. And the chemicals are heavy and some are very light. So when you put water on your washable marker, the dye will start to separate. But essentially, the dyes, because some are heavy and some are light, the heavier dyes will stay put. So you can see these permanent markers are made with heavier chemicals, so they're staying put on the paper towels. But the lighter chemicals in the dyes are blooming out. And that's because of the cellulose. Remember when we talked about the cellulose? The cellulose in the fibers of the paper towel help to carry that dye upward and outward. So we're going to pause a minute and we're just going to watch this dry like magic, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've let this dry, and we still have that copy paper underneath. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we lift the paper towel up. What? That's so cool. Oh my goodness, I love that. It's so much better than I thought it was gonna look. Well, anyway, here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna take our paper towel, and we're gonna actually cut and paste some of these paper towel bits. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this into, I think, a landscape, because there's so many cool colors here. So I'm just gonna put some glue down. And I'm gonna take my paper towel, and when you tear it, there's all of these little fibers. It's completely dry, but it's just dry enough. You can kind of see, that's so cool. See some of these little shapes, and all that permanent marker still stayed, but now you can see all these colors. Remember when we started with just a lot of black and brown? Now we see a lot of purple and pink and some orange, which makes it really exciting too. Oops. Just gonna set that down. I'm gonna find some things in here. I kind of think that that's an eye, so maybe I'll turn that into a duck. What do you think? Maybe a duck. That's a good marker here. A duck. The little sprouts. Duck in the water. And I want to make sure. He's got a lake in the background. So he's like in the water. And then some of these lines I just want to add. So cute. He's just having fun swimming. A little bit more. So I'm going to set this aside for another minute and let this dry, and then I'll finish up with you in a minute. Okay, so I have let it dry completely. And I'm realizing, you know, I kind of like it this way, but I want to add a little bit more. I started with the idea of a duck, but maybe I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more. Maybe turn it around and see if there's anything else I can maybe turn this into. I liked my duck. But that's the cool thing about art. You know, you may start with one idea, but then something might surprise you and a better idea might come along. I'm still waiting for that better idea, but I think I like what's going on here. But you can see all of these different colors. There's all this color. I love all this color. I think I'm going to keep the water. It looks like he's enjoying a good swim in the ocean. And friends, this is what we call abstract. When it's not something you can positively identify, but it's cool enough because it's got a lot of bright color. Still like my duck. Swimming in the water. All right, that's some fun with chromatography, my friends. So be as creative as you can with this project because you never know where it's going to go. So I'll see you next week, and have a wonderful rest of your week at camp. Bye.